The only limit to the height of your achievement is by the reach of your dreams and also how well you are prepared to work towards them. You're welcome to another special, amazing, insightful episode of Impact Stories, celebrating the life of our academic mentors in Africa. And I'm Ajimano Chodako, your host. And today we bring to you another very insightful and very, very captivating discussion of the life well lived of Professor James Baba Abugre, and you would want to know him personally for how he started and where he is now. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the short break. When we come back, we'll do the usual. We will be walking the talk. Stay with me. You're welcome back on Impact Stories, celebrating the life and academic achievements of our academic mentors. And as usual, we are going to be talking about the work of a man right from his prime to the point of where he is now and what he has been able to do. He was once made great impact at the Navrongo Health Research Center and also at the Center for Democratic Development in Ghana here. And he is well endowed in the area of international human resource management and international business. And he works with the Department of Organization and Human Resource Management at the University of Ghana Business School. And I'm glad to present to you Professor James Baba Abugre. Prof, you're welcome to Impact Stories.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to have you people with me here.
Splendid. I mean, it breeds lots of joy and inspiration when we look at your profile. And we ask ourselves, yeah, it means it's possible. You've made it and you believe that others can make it as well. But take us to the beginning. How did it start with you and how was life like at that point? And did you believe that you'd be here?
Thank you very much. In fact, life has been a mixture of good, the average and then bad. In the sense that I grew up in a village. My father didn't go to school, an illiterate. My mother too didn't go to school. However, my father found his way from the northern part of Ghana. That is, I actually come from Zwaringu. Zwaringu is just a suburb of Bolgatanga, just 3 kilometers away from Bolgatanga.
Okay.
And that is where the famous meat factory too is located.
Great.
So my village actually is very popular. So my father found himself actually in the southern part because he had just gone there to look at work because he was like an orphan. His mother had died, his father had died too. So, and finally got himself working with a white man, and then serving as a chef to the white man.
Yeah.
Then, I think it is there that the white man, they encourage him, you know, pre-colonial time, then he went into the military. So, because there were a lot of wars by then, Congo War, the World War, and so on. And that is how my father then got to maybe say 1 A, B, C, D or something of that nature. However, at the time he was marrying, I believe, because if I look back, I believe that he married late.
Okay.
Because he went on retirement when I was just about 3 years. And I come from a family of about 7 of us, 4 ladies and then 3 men. Actually, we are 8, but 1 died alongside. A boy who died alongside.
Unfortunate.
So growing up in the village there was just like in the greens, because around that time, you know, the rainfall patterns were quite unanimous in the sense that there used to be a pattern of rains that come at the same time. If it is June, it's June.
Yeah.
It is not like today that things have turned that sometimes May.
Haphazard.
So whilst my father came there, he brought some sheep, and with his other brothers all, they had cattle. And because you grow up in the village, you know, they deal well with a lot of farming and so on. So when he brought his sheep, and then he had introduced me to school in Kumasi, that is the last garrison before he left.
Yeah.
And when we came home, so his brother's children said, no, they will not allow me to go to school while they will be following his sheep. So then I have to. So that made me to follow the sheep, my father's sheep, and then they mix them with they combine them with the cattle, and then we follow. So actually I was a cowboy. I followed cattle for some time. I did wrestling, all the menial things in the village and so on. And I think that impacted a lot of my life. Up to a certain point in time that I realized that when the rainy season, we follow the cattle outside.
Yeah.
And we keep there until evening, then we come back. So I used not to go to school. If it is dry season, because we leave them to be roaming, they are nomads and so on, and then they come back later on, then I then get a chance of going to school. So that is how my life has been. I went to school at Dakra Primary School in Zwaringu. Then I think then my father moved away from the village. That is not actually from the village, but it was just from the compound house, and had bought some mud house. I would say that it's a building that he bought from somebody else when he came back with his retirement benefits, just in the center of Zwaringu. So my father decided to move there, but it wasn't that developed. So when we came there, I joined my colleagues here, there, and then I think, attending the Catholic Church. I was a mass server. Then, being that we decided to take, I took the common entrance for Notre Dame seminaries.
Senior.
In fact, Notre Dame, what they do is that they normally take very young people because, as the saying goes, catch them when they are young.
Exactly.
And so we took the common entrance. And luckily, we were how many? About 12 of us from Zwaringu there. And only 5 of us passed. And out of the 5, we went for the interview, and then I think 4 of us went through. And out of the 4 of us, I think 3 of us are still living. 2 have died alongside, I'm sure. Not too certain about the other one, but I'm sure of one who died. So from Notre Dame, I was there, and then, but you know, village life and so on, and you go into secondary school, it is quite very, I wouldn't say frustrating, but it is enjoyable. It's just a mixture of enjoyment and frustrating, because here is the case you were following cows. Here is the case you now come to secondary school. And then here is a case also that maybe you see a lot of people with wealth and other things. And if you don't have that, fortunately for some of us, Notre Dame was a mission school. So they made the whole place uniform. Whether you were rich or poor, you looked the same. That saved some of us. So whether you were wearing something good or not, it didn't matter. But rules and regulations were to be followed. So I finished Notre Dame from 5, went to 6th form, that is Tamale, Ghana Secondary School. Then, as fate will have it, because my father had come out very early, retirement, what was he going to do? He decided to, around that time, you know, coming out from the military, you were quite needed to be a security man. So he went to become a watchman. He's called him watchman at Bolgatanga Girls Secondary School. Then one day, I think some thieves came and broke into the place and stole some items, sewing machines and so on. And the first point would be that they will arrest the watchman. So they arrested the watchman, and we're doing the visit to police cells. And I remember going with my mother to visit him in the police cells, and I was crying because I didn't understand what I was saying. So my father then vowed that no, he doesn't want to do this work again. He will not do that sort of work again. And so he decided to sit down and be doing the small, that is a home farming, and which I was helping with. So after 6th form, I told myself that, look, this number of children under you, and I'm the second born, what are you going to do? Earlier in Notre Dame, I have to be blunt, because even school fees became a problem. But those are not excuses, because normally during the holidays, you travel, you go and you do some work and get the distance, and then come back to pay your school fees. The mission too was very helpful, because sometimes around that time when I was in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, the Zwaringu Social Center was being built. So we, those who were students around that time, we used to come during the holidays, we work as laborers, and then we get money from that to pay our school fees. So that made me, from 6th form, I couldn't have gone to university straight. So I had to work. I had to bring my siblings up a little bit. And so I started work. Earlier, before that, I think, what actually I'm talking about, what initiated me into teaching. My 6th form, what we call national service, I did it with Anglican Vocational School. And there was this principal who saw me, who said he saw me to be a hardworking and faithful person. That's the two words that he used.
Great.
It's Mr. Edu. So he just said, instead of coming here to do service as a teacher, he wanted me to be his secretary. And I said, oh, but still let me teach a little bit. So I was teaching English then. And teaching English and being a secretary. If today I am a bit good at language, writing of letters, memos, and so on, I think I'll attribute it to Moses Edu. He taught me administrative writing. In fact, administrative writing is different from academic writing.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of students do not understand.
Yeah.
So having said that, he made me appointed after the national survey. He just said he wanted me to be there. But I was so much, will I say, high flyer? And so I was sought after. I got an interview, and when the regional administration, they picked me again to be an executive officer. So I was just looking at, then I applied somewhere, Ghana Post, I got this and two. But I told myself that if I want to stay into this, I may not end up by not going to the university. Yeah. However, after the Anglican Vocational School, just 1.5 years, I decided to go to regional administration, and I worked as an executive officer. I worked there for some time. I realized that maybe people were into reading of documents. It wasn't that motivating. I'm an active person. I like work. So when you sit down for a very long time, so I left there. Then I went to Navrongo Health Research Center. Then it was called Ghana Vitamin A Supplementation Trial.
Okay.
This was a project that was initiated by I think the WHO, and then World Health Organization, and then London School of Tropical Hygiene in collaboration with Noguchi Memorial. And the essence was that to research into vitamin A and then link it to the survival of children.
Okay.
So today, if you see that a lot of children do not die as a result of vitamin A that is given, it is that research, which I am proud to say that I was a field worker. We collected all this data, going to give doses to children in the Navrongo catchment area. I think Professor Japon was there, Maggie Japon, the wife too. Professor Binka was my head of department. Prof. Owusu too at Desen. In fact, almost all the people who worked in Navrongo said they are professors now today in what we call most of the universities.
That is affordable.
Yeah. So having said that, then I was still very young. So I said, no, looking at it, I think that I should marry.
How old were you there?
I think I was 22.
Oh.
Yes, 22. So the ladies were then coming. So once the money started distance. So this is what I did. And then I told myself that I now go to the university. So I married whilst I was in the university. And that also brought about a lot of challenges, because here is the case: you have a wife, a beautiful wife, I think so. And then my wife was also a nurse then. Here is the case: you have people to take care of, you haven't finished. So in school, I was working alongside educating myself. That is where I got into CDD. Because CDD was then opening. I think they came back in 1997. This first start of CDD was 1997. It was then Center for Democratic and Development.
Okay.
Then later they changed it Center for Democratic Development. It was then Center for this. And I'm proud to say I was one of the first field workers actually to work with them.
Great.
And ever since, I think my boss was then a doctor now, Dr. Wiafia Kenteng, who is at the psychology department. He always looked at me and said he's not surprised the way I have gone to, because he took me as a student and I came back to become a lecturer and everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They came to interview some people in the university, and when they came, they interviewed us, and he was looking at me the way I was talking. But he asked, who was the one who did the EMS? Those days they were EMS. EMS letter, send the EMS letter. I said, I did it. Then you are the people who want. So he left all of them there, including master students and so on, and then took me. And so that's how I started CDD. I worked with CDD, Afrobarometer 1, Afrobarometer 2, Afrobarometer 3, and alongside doing my studies. So the next is finding myself in the university, maybe at the master's level. I decided to go back to do masters. But alongside, because I had attended Mount Mary College, where the study of French is taught to be taught to students.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a polyglot. I speak a lot of language. I speak Spanish, I speak French, I speak, I do a little bit of Arabic and so on.
Great.
So this is where I got to. I went back to Bolga Girls to teach 1 year, 6 months there as a French teacher. And I'd gone there to teach because of family problem. Then I came back to do my master's in business administration, which was very competitive around that time. Those days, once you write the examination, your name appears on the graphic. Then you go back and then write the interview, your name again appears on the graphic, and times only. These were the two papers and lessons. So that's what got me into. I was sitting in the classroom, then the head of department in human resource called me and said, they have watched me in the classroom, the way I behave, and they would like me to stay. Am I working? I said, yes, I work. And around that time, ISODEC, I had applied to ISODEC, and then the processes were ongoing. So I accepted because I needed a lot of things. I'm somebody who challenges myself actually doing so many things at the same time. And then I became a teaching assistant to help, in the University of Ghana. So I think that made me to just stay back. But the time they were regularizing me, I had an appointment with Mr. Tachuchikata's wife, Stratcom, as a communication manager. Then I'd gone, and it was even a friend of mine that we did communication, MA communication at, University of Ghana too, who sort of referred me to the lady and said, I found somebody, for example, who is very good at this communication, and he can be. I think he was leaving that place too. And whilst I was about to go, the University of Ghana sensed that I wanted to leave, then they quickly regularized my appointment as a full lecturer then. So that is where I am now, raising up to the professorial. After that, I did my, probation for 2 years. Then I went for my PhD. I didn't waste time at all there. And whilst I was there, I realized that the university life is full of hard work and research. So if you look back, you see that my first research paper was in this, when I was then doing my PhD, 2012. When I was almost finishing my PhD, 2012, I just said I won't go back up to today. So this is where I am. I'm an associate professor. I've just, of human resource management. So that's what I can say about my early life and academic life.
It's been so exciting. I believe you're also gathering and gathering all this kind of interest to know more about him, because he's really come this far. Look at his interest in research and also in human resource management. So don't go anywhere. We'll come back and we'll talk about some of his publications and what inspired him to really develop that interest in these areas and how far he's come with his research and impact and also mentions. Still going to be right back. You're welcome back to Impact Stories on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. And we in Impact Stories are celebrating the life and academic achievement of Professor James Baba Abugre, the Department of Organization and Human Resource Management at the University of Ghana. And Prof, let's now come back to your publications. You know, they say if you don't publish, you perish. And these words pretty threaten and undermine and break down the hearts of people in academia, because if you don't publish, you're not growing. But you've come this far, means you've really done a lot in terms of publications. How has it been for you from the day one? What inspired you to research into human resource management, and how far have you come with such publications?
Thank you very much. It's really true that globally, universities will tell you that you either publish or you perish. And the perish here doesn't simply mean you just die. But you are dead figuratively, in the sense that you don't get promotions. Our promotions are based on, in fact, I can say 79% is research-based. And in other universities, maybe in Africa here, is a bit better because we have a lot of students that we are teaching. And African universities, most of them are basically teaching universities. If you go to the Western countries, they have divided their university into research universities and teaching universities. So if you look at universities that are very rich, like Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, and so on, they basically deal with the research. And it's the research that makes the government to give them more money. See? And so people, if you want to stay in academia, that is what you ask yourself, can I do this? It means that you have to be burning the oil almost all the time in the night. Or if it is daytime, that you have chosen for yourself. So with publications, I didn't know the importance of publication. And I'll say it for the sake of younger people. And because of that, I've done a paper. And that paper, Institutional Governance and Administrative Process in Higher Education in Research University in Sub-Saharan Africa. It went to a high impact, that is higher education, a high impact journal. And it's one of my highly referred or cited paper, you see. So, and I did it because whilst I entered as a lecturer, I realized that I didn't get that lesson that maybe, or nobody told me that you have to publish. Because teachings were here, especially if you're in the business school, we're teaching at a city campus, a main campus. And teaching level 100, level 200, quite numbers and so on, and you are marking, so on. By the time you know the year is passed. And they've given you only 2 years in probation. So I think yearly, they would ask you that, tell us what you've done. And I remember my first year, I asked a colleague of mine, I think Dr. Sander, and then Jocelyn. Jocelyn, may her soul rest in peace, she's dead. She went to do a PhD, and then, she got sick, and then that was. And I said, oh, so what do they mean by this? They said, you have to write and then show that you have written something. Apart from the teaching that you show that, oh, I teach level 100, I teach level 200, I teach this, and no, you are not particular about that. It is important, but the research too. So I said, oh, it means that there should have been somebody actually to guide you, to tell you the importance of this. So that made me to say that I will write this thing and tell them how some people can navigate in this difficult situation, because academic university is just like the sea, whereby they just dump you inside and you are swimming. You don't even know where the walls where you are going to get swept. So if you are not careful to get some people to mentor you or to coach you on what to do, you may stay there. Some get, some don't get. So I use this chance in classroom, for example, to tell my especially PhD students or MPhil students, and then encourage them to do the publication with. So having said this, that is how I went, my PhD then helped me to start my publications. But one lesson that I learned also was that made me to become faster. I'm into human resource management, international human resource management.
Yeah.
Now, how? I am good at communicating.
Okay.
I speak other languages.
Yeah.
So when I was doing my MPhil, I decided to take my dissertation topic as employee communication.
Okay.
So I went back to the University of Ghana to do another master's, which is a Master of Communication. And I took my dissertation was public relations, and that is still communication.
Yeah.
So when I went to ESA Business School in Spain to do postgraduate teaching, case management and so on, in my writing of this sense, I was looking at how employees communicate. And then, for instance, lecturers, for instance, can communicate properly to students. So this propelled me, and my PhD was on cross-cultural communication.
Okay.
In international business. So have you seen the trajectory? So it means that I have certain things in communication. So when you see my writing mostly, it deals with the interaction of human beings in organizations, that is local and international organizations, and how they can perform, what actually motivates them, what actually makes them committed. It is not what you give them, but how they interpret it as a result of the communication. So communication has just been my background, and it has helped me in my research. Sometimes the mistake most of us make is that you do a different course in what I call at the MPhil level, at the PhD, you do a different thing, then other thing, then you start. So you have a mixture of a gamut of so many things. So where actually is your focus? If you are not careful, you will not be noticed. Sometimes internationally, they look at us based on what the impact of your work. They don't look at that is the largeness or the number of work that you have done. And that's why a lot of us didn't get noticed earlier when we're doing it. But if you focus and you do it properly, that's how it is. So my research has been that in terms of what I call human resource management, now linking them. Even in training, I make sure that I focus much on what I call human resource management. And so from my PhD when I came, I think my MPhil, because of that, I published 3 papers from my MPhil, which is rare in the distance.
Okay.
And I have used that thing for my students. Any student that I am teaching, that I am supervising, whether you want or not, I will sponsor part of you and send you international, which I didn't get. So this is what I do.
Great.
And sometimes my students think that I put pressure on them. But later on, they come to me to say that you are the best.
Exactly.
Because in your MPhil, I will not publish less than 2 papers. I give you the work, I give myself work, and I'll tell you, have you seen, I'm doing 70%, you're doing 30%, but the work is your work that I'm doing for you. What I hate is to rely on people to do something, you put your name there. It is unethical and it's not good. But I think that as teachers, for instance, we teach people how to fish, so that when you are not there, then you fish.
Yeah.
They can fish. I think most of my MPhil students, they now come to the PhD, they come to tell me that this is what they have learned a lot from me in terms of even methodology of what we call our articles. So that has been the trajectory. And I always say that, and as I gave you my life history, you can see that I actually didn't grow up in maybe say places, or I hadn't everything.
Yeah.
I went through some difficulties. Yeah. But I thank God that I went through those difficulties, and that shaped my life. So anything that I am doing, I put my all in it. So when I'm working with people, they think that they know you to be hardworking, but they feel that you are putting much of your work, emphasis on the work set. And that is what I actually do. So to go back, when I was in Avrongo Health Center, there is no field worker who ever beat me. At the end of the round, I finish. But the problem I have is that sometimes because you speak the truth, people will certainly have problems with you. Your bosses will have problems because if you do something, I'll just tell you that this is the situation, and so on. And at CDD, same. Anytime we went into the field, for instance, I finished almost everything, and I was the one. I remember there was one round like that, I don't know whether Afrobarometer 2 or 3, 2. Then were a group of people who went there, including the current research director at the Jubilee House, Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah. Yeah, I used to do a lot of work with him on CDD and so on. I think we were supposed to go to Tamale, from there to Bolga, and then to other places, Yendi and so on. We were just around the northern zone doing this research. And there was a university lecturer who was our supervisor. And then they had sent somebody from London School of Hygiene, a white man, to secretly come and see what we were doing. And the person came and met us at Larsen Hotel. When he came, sorry, but the thing is that, he looked at the way we were working and he said no. He gave the distance back to CDD. And I think the field officer then said, I'm not surprised. So they rather made me to be the one to take over the supervision of that. And I say this because sometimes, a lot of us, when we are working, we think that we are cheating ourselves, other people are not working. But whatever you are doing, people are watching you. And the most important thing, the Almighty God is looking at you. Yeah. And he will reward you at appropriate time. So in most of the work that I do, if you look at my research work, and if you read it, you will see the substance in it. I spent a lot of time actually to make it. And another problem was that I think that, will I say a weakness? Normally in the academia, we write jointly. Yeah. We write jointly, and that is what makes us to go faster and so on. It is acceptable to do that. However, some universities have come to realize that the joint work that we normally do, people cheat. Because it's just a matter of writing with you, and I'll put somebody's name, another person's name there, or put my child's name there, and then maybe that person too has written this. So in the promotion, what about trajectory in the University of Ghana and most of the university, they will tell you that at least 50-60% of your work should be maybe say first, you are either the corresponding author or you are the first author. Because if you don't initiate it, and nobody will put you first.
Yeah.
But there are some of us, the lecturers, who force our students to put ourselves there. That is a different thing anyway. So if you look at my work, you realize that I've written them, I have individual work, a lot. The problem is that if I were working with a lot of people, maybe I would have gotten more. But as I spoke about my life, sometimes I accept challenge. If I'm working with somebody and we have a deadline and the person doesn't bring the thing and I bring mine, then we wait for another time, there's lateness and so on. Maybe the next time I always say that it's better you do it alone. It's been a weakness and at the same time a blessing. So sometimes a lot of people ask, why is it that when we look at your work, normally we just see single author, you are the one, single author, single author, single author. And I said, well, two things. Either in that area, people are not there to help you, and so you do it alone. Or in most cases, you see that the people you are working, they want shoddy things. And if you don't want a shoddy thing to do, what do you do? Because all these writings that we are doing, they are there. Even if you die and go, they will still be there. And people watch you. And I think those publications are the things that has helped me in internationalization. I've gotten called. I do a lot of work in universities outside Australia, South Africa, and other distance. So I think because they basically read your work and then they invite you that we want you to be an examiner and so on. So research work is good. It has helped me to be an external examiner to a lot of universities internationally.
Share with us a couple of your outreaches on being an examiner through your work.
Actually, my work is into what we call mainstream human resource management, which I lace it with what we call, because communication, human resource management simple means harnessing the potential of a human being to be committed to do work. That's all.
Yeah.
Human resource management. I look at it in how do you let the person understand. If you look at mostly in Ghana here, why is human resource management failing? The basic line is communication, but we are not taking it serious. Because our bosses communicate to us from their behavior that there is something more that is hidden from us. Then we also communicate to them that since you are hiding this from us, this is what we can do. So I think that this is what I normally look at within. So whether I'm doing training, looking at what I call performance, high performance, at least with the interaction aspect of it. So, and because my PhD was on international human resource management, I do a lot of work on multinational companies.
Okay.
So people read your work. You know, this day you cannot hide. If you go to Google Scholar and just type the person's name, it pops up.
Absolutely.
And so when they read most of these things, then somebody invites you, they tell, oh, we have seen this work and we want you to examine this, our PhD distance and so on. We want to know whether we accept. Then automatically, you know, it comes with some small dollar too and so on. So you say, yes, I accept. And then sometimes they may tell you that, oh, we just want you to be an external examiner to our PhD candidates and so on. Because the external examiners are into two different things. Either you are examining only PhD or you examine all the work that they have, like the graduate studies. For example, I am an external examiner to a lot of Ghanaian universities here, Abitifi University, UDS. UDS has got about four universities now in UDS, because UDS were the business school. UDS, what do you call it? Tamale. At Nyampala.
Yeah.
So that is there's a school of business, that is human resource there. Then there is a UDS also in Tamale there. The Faculty of Agric and Human Resource or something like that. It's human resource linked with faculty. The external examiner too.
Great.
A lot of universities, in this situation, what they do normally is that you moderate their questions. They send the questions to you, or sometimes they can let you go there, and then they'll put, maybe stay at a particular place. They bring all the examination scripts, and so you vet whether the questions are standard, they are good, for the students to understand and so on. Look at their marking schemes, read some of the scripts, read their project work, undergraduate and then graduate is all. Then you write your report. In terms of promotions too, our promotions are based on the fact that there are three things every academic in the world is based on research, one, teaching, and what I call community service.
Yeah.
So sometimes when people float their promotions, what they do is that the schools will go to Google, maybe, I don't know how, they just look at the name, this is, and say the human resource. And so you get some people from Valley View University, the Kumasi Technical Universities, Cape Coast University, Presbyterian. In fact, there are some of those universities are passing to my colleagues in the department. I think I've given a lot of this into this. Dr. Yvonne Lanti, for instance, because it got some time I couldn't handle most of these external distance, so I have to pass it to some of them. But the universities will always tell you the caliber of person that they want. If you are not up to a senior lecturer, you cannot examine the distance. You cannot be an external examiner to them. So research, yet it is good. It enables you. I mean, it sells you out, especially when you do a very good job and so on. And in particular, based on the topics and then the area that you actually do the research on. So this is what I can say. And I love my research. And I can say that also, maybe because I did a lot of baseline research at Mavrongo Health Research Center, because being in the field, collecting data, interviewing people, women and children, taking their work, weighing them, going to clinics with them and doing all these things, stay in the villages and then move from one compound to one compound. I have a naval officer who is a very good friend of mine. He always says that anytime he takes a book to read and then he feels sleepy, he remembers when we're riding bicycles from one compound to compound, then he's energized to continue working. So, yeah, and I always laugh. Anytime I think about that, and it's motivating. So I think that those things have served as an anchor. In addition to CDD, for instance, it was basically research and so on. Questioning people, asking them about this and trying to find out why this, why that, and so on, and bringing them together and so on. So these have served as the anchor for my research. That is why I'm passionate about research work.
Great. One would say that you began with something you really had love for, gathering data, interacting with people, and sharing with people a lot, and most importantly, communication. And that's how come you've come this far with your researches, communicating, also focusing more about harnessing human potential, basically human resource management in Africa. You have really done a lot in terms of your impact. What is the one thing that you always remember that puts a smile on your face with what you've contributed to human resource management in Africa? The one thing that elates you.
Well, when I say that, let me leave the generality of Africa and come to Ghana first, then before I'll come to Africa and come to the world itself. In terms of Ghana, I am excited in the sense that my teaching impacts students. I see it at the initial stage. Initially, students normally will find that they think I put too much on them and I expect much. Yes, I say that, yes, I am somebody who doesn't, I like quality things naturally. When I'm doing something, I want to put my best there. So you will not all people, at the graduate level, when you supervise people, sometimes it doesn't go much, but there are some of them I've taken it to the next level by trying to advise them how possible it can go in terms of publication. And some of these people are women, married, and you see them, their husbands coming to my office to just look at me and say, because of you, my wife at home, she's always doing this, reading this, and say, hey, Prof. Abugre, or that, from my doctor time to, and so on. And so sometimes, several times I've seen some men come to me to see. And so I realize that, the impact is this. And till date, I see that I'm always saying, you see that somebody will call you and said, oh, sir, I just miss you. If I could come back to school again and then be supervised by you. So I know if it is impact of like research and in terms of my teaching, initially we all normally think that going to a mission school, initially we thought that those people were a bit wicked to us because rules and regulations are the paramount things in mission schools. Don't do this, do this, don't do this, and that is what. And I think it has sort of imbibed in some of us. And so when you start to teach and you tell people the truth, they originally or initially think that maybe you are too hard on them. But at some point, when they begin to realize that you are faithful to what you are doing, then the love begin to come. So I will say that in my teaching, and I teach practically because I teach with a lot of cases, I make students to read. I like reading, so I make students to read a lot in cases and so on. I think sometimes, if you want to find out the impact, you just ask anybody. The first thing they will associate with are cases. So sometimes when I'm moving around, I see people after 5 years, they come and say, hey, say your cases, you still have them in our business. I said, that is good. You see that you still remember all these things and so on. So impact means what? Impact is something that people will think about. Impact is what people will take and then can push it to other people so that people who can follow and so on. These students that I'm talking about, adults for call, come to tell me that they have just made sure that what I will do to them, they want their children to follow that path. And I say, oh, good, then I'm happy. And so on. If you say that, then I know that then the impact is actually there.
Yeah.
But all my research students, I joke with them a lot and they know that I push. For pushing, I push. But at the same time, they know that the impact is positive on them. So you must work. And sometimes they can dodge me, and sometimes you see them when they are every day, then they come around because there is work. When I'm looking for them, they can decide to run away, put their phone off, and so on. Those that have finished the distance and we are supposed to publish something, and I'll be looking for you. Where is your part? I have finished my part. Where is this thing? But I understand the exigencies of our time and so on. People are busy looking for money and so on. Nevertheless, we must do the right thing. So in terms of impact, I think that, and it tells you, any place that I go to, I do a lot of work for GTech. I'm an assessor in terms of human resource and management. And I basically serve as, and I think that GTech, the first time they employed me to do that, the second time they never regretted.
Wow.
Ever since they've been using me here and there, all over the country, go to this university, go to this things and assess this work, especially when it comes to business and so on. Impact, when I go to the school, and I sit with them and I'm speaking, I notice they know I have read the area and I'm pointing out the mistakes and so on to them. So I am happy that I don't just go there to show who I am or to tell them that this is. Let the people understand that what you are saying is true and point it to them where the mistake is. And when the people correct it, because at the end of it all, whether it's University of Ghana, it's Valley View University, or it's Christian Methodist University or something like that, it is Ghanaians we are training.
Yeah.
This is a competitive world. What are we doing to the students? So if it comes that, I know that in terms of impact, I put impact there. Now, Africa, based on some of this research, and so that's why I say a lot of South Africa, for instance, I have about 4 universities that I serve as an external university to them. And I think it's based on the research work. So what is the impact? Yes, bringing down your PhD work for me to examine and pass my comment. And white is white. I don't mind. There are some institutions that I have assessed their work and it was failure and I failed and I know they haven't come back to me. I am happy because if you speak the truth, it is better than pretended to do. It's the pretension that is making Ghana, especially in teaching. And I tell people in terms of communication that, look, there are 3 professions that you should be a role model. You should not speak the truth. Listen, you shouldn't tell them anything that is outside the truth. Teaching, being a pastor, and a judge. Because your work, people, look, you are training people to do something. So if you train them wrongly, the blood is on your head.
Yeah.
You see, the blood is going to be on your head. So in terms of that impact, It is. And I belong to this association. It's an international association, which is Academy of African Business and Development. Recently, we had a conference at UPSC, and then the president came.
Yes.
So if you see that this, you see me also standing there.
Great.
I'm actually the executive secretary of that thing. I've been the executive secretary for 6 years. 3 plus 4 plus 5 years now, yes. Going for my second distance, so I'll be ending my 8th year, maybe next 2 years.
Great.
It's African development. So here is the case, there is an impact. We organize a lot of what we call webinars, whereby we educate most people, Africans. We get Africans that are scholarly Africans and Africans who have done businesses like Dangote and Co. So we tell them to maybe speak to people so that people, serve as mentors. So these webinars, normally I do the letters and everything. So impact, I would say yes, in terms of that. Globally, I would say our writings and so on popularize us globally. And I think that, well, even though I've done a little bit of teaching in what we call Birmingham University in terms of what I call international human resource management, where a colleague of mine, we did a book together. He was the editor, and I did some 2 chapters there because we were doing the PhD together. And he said, that's where he is. And he said, well, he knows me to be very good at international human resource management. Then I should come there and teach. So in terms of impact, yes. Well, when people look at your work and they know this, it means that it impacts to some extent globally. But no human being can be the whole world everywhere. So locally, I'm excited, even from the time I taught at Bogis, and all my students from level 100 those days, teaching business communication, English communication, principle of management. Students come to me and tell me, say, you taught me principle. Then I'll say, you people are now growing. And so on. So once students begin to tell you that we'll note you without making mistake, not to distance, then it means that you have an impact on the person or something like that. Yeah. So I think, but the impact is the same. I'm working hard actually to impact more. That is the bane of, that is what an academic should do. Your work should impact people. And I think that I'm not there. I'm just not even up to quarter. But I'm praying to God that there's long life and consistently maybe the global impact will come.
So, Prof, this is a popular saying that with every successful man, there is a woman who had been behind him, holding the fort and supporting. And that brings us all to the woman in your life who had been with you to this point. How did you meet her? And how have you been able to make life together to this point with her?
Oh, well, yeah, there is a woman in my life, a very lovely lady, very beautiful lady. And I think if I am successful today, I attribute part of it to her. And I can even say I attribute 60% to her in the sense that academic work is said that you spend a lot of time nights reading and doing, especially if you want to do a very good job. She gives me the leeway to do that. And wherever I'm going to, I decide to take her along too. That's one thing. But if you ask me where I met her, it's funny, sometimes I met her in her house. Yes, I went to work, and then I was coming and I saw some beautiful lady sitting in her village eating food. And this is a fair lady eating food outside, and I didn't understand. So when I wanted to pass, and I was riding the bicycle, I wanted to pass, something said, no, go back. And I decided to come back, and then I greeted, and I said, am I invited? She looked at me and was wondering, you surprise the person. That is all. My wife is actually in charge of the hospital at, Fafraha. She is the one in charge. She's called Justina. Justina, the father used to be Isaka, but sometimes the name, but just say Justina Isaka Abugre. Yeah. We have lovely children. We have our firstborn is a girl, I think. And I also have some cousins who are with me that I take care of here in this house. That is all what I can say about mine.
That's wonderful. How many children do you have?
I'll have 2 children. Then I have some nieces with me that I take care of.
Okay.
Yeah, that I take care of. Yeah.
What are you really used to in terms of your hobby?
You know, the more you grow, it changes a little bit. But when I was, because of the nature of the school that I went to, a hobby just became reading. And so, but being a lecturer now, I still like reading. But now I don't read storybooks like I used to read because the dissertations and other things are there and people sending you work to do. You are training people. I do a lot of training. In fact, yeah, I do a lot of training, going to organizations to do training here and there and so on. So you have to prepare yourself, do research, and then to go and train. So now the storybooks are no more. I don't read them. So in my classroom situation, when I'm asking students, have you read this book? Somebody are surprised sitting, because I read everything. I tell them that when they are even going, they should pick up something. But I used to do a lot of sports, and I still do sports. I like walking. I like running. Up to this age, I used to play. I think I played basketball, volleyball for my schools. All.
You won trophies, right?
Well, I won certificates, not trophies. Because luckily enough, my school wasn't that big to compete with the bigger schools. So we and when I went to sixth form, that school was big, but the events that I did 800 meters. I didn't see top much. I went to zonals actually, but I couldn't go far.
No, that's an achievement to go that far. Zonals is an achievement.
but you know, you can't win this. You always do this. And then 400 meters. I think I do a lot of running.
I'm bad at that though, so I really appreciate you for coming this far. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I like cooking too. I cook. I hardly eat outside, but I do. But so when I just enter my kitchen and I find something, I started to cook. And I have a wife who also likes cooking. So she has stopped my cooking a little bit because by the time I enter there, then she has come to do something that is more than what I do. So that is it. But I like eating food at home. Yeah.
That's great. What's your favorite food?
Food. I like rice balls with granite soup and guinea fowl meat. Teased with vegetables. We call it bitter. If you go to the back of this house, I have done my garden because actually I believe in, so you find them. Alefu. Have you heard of alefu?
Yeah, those leaves.
Yeah, so these are the things that I like a lot. So granules, teased rice balls with these things. But of late, for some years now, my wife has been good at jollof. That almost everybody, a friend of mine or her family or anyone who comes to the house and takes the jollof will always want to come back and eat the jollof.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And she makes it with dawa dawa. We don't joke with dawa dawa in this house. Actually. You know, coming from the north, everything of us, we just tell them and then they send it and we just go and take it.
Yeah.
And I don't know the way she makes the jollof that sometimes students come to me a lot from my village, and when they come and she makes the jollof and they eat, they go back and say, oh, the jollof, or the rice ball. And the rice ball that I like is red rice. That is a local rice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the things. If you invite me and you do this, I will stay there and I will.
That's great taste. So you like football?
Unfortunately, no. I don't like football, but I study it. So as a teacher who is challenging, when I cite examples and say I don't have a team, I don't like this, and people are surprised. But what happens is that you see the newspapers, I just read, and I'll be reading, when I see some story about this, I read about that person, and it links me to the team, how the person came about and so on. So I have these examples to show in classroom, but I don't have a team. The national team, when they are playing, I don't watch. What I like is boxing.
Oh, okay.
And basketball.
Okay.
But the boxing has taken over now. So I watch boxing a lot. But football, you can do anything. I will not watch football. My wife is a lover of football.
Oh.
So
that complements the whole equation, right?
She doesn't see me for a week and I come. There's football. She prefers to go for the football and leave me.
It's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, mentoring, as I said, I've just been a mentor to a lot of people. If I ask you all, my current PhD students, they will tell you that that's what they like about me. I think David is at Accra Technical Distance. That's where he works and so on. There's some of my distance. Because I didn't get that, that is why I have decided that I will mentor you. You know, there is difference between mentoring and coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coaching is basically teaching the person to do one thing. Mentoring is that you teach the person in addition to behavior. So you see me scolding, if you come, you do national service with me. I basically want you to learn certain behavior, time management, your behavior, attitude to work. So this is why I'm saying that initially people find it a bit because you come with a different attitude and I want to force you into another attitude. So, but at the end of it, I tell them that, look, it is meant for you. So those who do national service with me, at certain point in time, I see that they try not to alter. They just say, no, they want to go towards, they came with a different decision, but they want to go towards what I'm doing. Because here is the case, I take them to a restaurant, we sit down together and converse. But I say that the next time, if you do something, I will spare you.
Great. It's an excellent time with you discussing your achievements in your publications in academia as well. And I'm always just sad with your students and say that we would want to go and come back again and still work with you because you really imbibe in us and indulge us into being focused, being so involved, and also being hardworking. So this is where time permits us on Impact Stories, celebrating the life and achievements of our academic mentors. And Professor James Baba Abugre has a very key example of an academic mentor who has made great strides in academia, mentored so many scholars who are so proud of him and want to come back to him and work with him. And one virtue is that he always believes in consistency. So you need to also learn from him there as well. So, Prof, thank you very much. And Impact Stories.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
And we'll come your way with another Impact story that also inspires and also opens ways for us to touch our dreams. Have a nice day. My name is Ajima Chodako, and bye.